Trailer Park Boys' first season was a cult hit on Showcase, having somehow found a niche audience on a weird cable TV station in Canada. Not bad for something that was originally just a short film shown at a film festival in Halifax. By the time season 2 was running, the audience was starting to grow, and more people were tuning in, and even following that, when season 2 was airing in reruns during the off-season, the fan base kept growing. It was one of those cases where, like, you'd be at work or school or whatever, and somebody would be like, oh, you ever watch that show Trailer Park Boys? And if you'd seen it, you'd talk about it. And if you hadn't seen it, you'd be told to watch it so that you can talk about it. By the time the show was going into its third season, it was the bridge point for when the show crossed over from cult TV to pop culture powerhouse. Trailer Park Boys had truly crossed into the mainstream. It was at this time that the cast had been doing appearances at autograph signings and promotional events. The show was getting talked about in newspapers, magazines, and on TV shows, and it was at this point that Showcase realized that they had something huge with Trailer Park Boys. This had both positive and negative effects on the upcoming third season. Season 3 of Trailer Park Boys picks up in the aftermath of Season 2 after Ricky and Julian's big drug deal. Now, I'd mentioned that between the short film in Season 1 and between Season 1 and Season 2 there were some changes to the format and characters of the show. Season 1 kind of feels more like a day-in-the-life documentary, whereas Season 2, while it still uses the mockumentary format, kind of feels more like your average, like, comedy show. Season 3 features the last time that the show would kind of change up its dynamic, and this would be the dynamic that it would keep for the rest of its run. So, like, Season 1 was a reset from the movie, Season 2 was kind of a reset from Season 1, and Season 3 is kind of a reset from Season 2. So, just to start it off, Trina Lahey was written off of the show, despite hints that the character would be prevalent on the show moving forward at the end of the second season. Lucy and Trinity returned permanently, as Lucy was absent save for 2 appearances in the second season, and Trinity was just completely absent. It's also worth noting that in Season 3, the Sarah-Ricky romance is completely written off. It is addressed, but, like, moving forward, that whole little arc is pretty much non-canon. It never comes up again. Sarah is just back to being Lucy's friend who also hates Ricky.
Today's the day Ricky's getting out of jail, and apparently he has a whole bunch of money saved up, and I think he's probably going to try and move back in with Lucy or get with me again. Not this time.
And all in all the characters that appear in Season 3 are there pretty much permanently, with the exception of a change that happens in the last season, but we'll get to that when we get to that. And it's also worth noting that recurring characters Cyrus and Sam Losco do not appear in the third season of the show.
This is fucked up.
Well, Season 2 kind of started the whole thing with the formula. Season 3 kind of continues that, but in a different fashion. By far the biggest change in Season 3 is how the main characters work. Going into the first movie in Season 1, Julian is pretty much like the main character of the show. Even if Ricky gets all the funny bits, it's the story about Julian. Season 2 kind of started to split it between Ricky and Julian because Ricky was popular and Ricky was funny.
Bubbles, what happened to my trailer park, man? Looks like a tropical earthquake blew through here or something, man.
With Bubbles becoming more of a prominent character compared to Season 1 and Season 2. By the time it gets to Season 3, Trailer Park Boys feels kind of like an ensemble. It usually does follow Ricky and Julian, but Bubbles gets some of the spotlight, Lahey gets the spotlight, J-Roc even gets a spotlight episode in Season 3. And this would kind of just be the dynamic moving forward, where the show is mostly about Ricky, Julian, and Bubbles, but there's episodes that spotlight other characters. Now, the show in Season 1 still had some of the dark, vulgar humor from the movie that was a little bit watered down, and they watered it down in Season 2 as well, and it gets even further watered down in Season 3. It's like a different kind of watering down. Season 2 felt like they simplified the show's dynamic and made the characters a little more sympathetic, because obviously a show where the characters aren't likable wouldn't go very far. Season 3 does keep this, but they also kind of water down the actual illegal activity. Like, compared to every other season in the series, Season 3 has the group doing the most tame crimes. There's a lot less drug references, there's not very much gunplay. In many ways, Season 3 feels like the safest season that they ever did.
For the legal record, we were not robbing the store. We're not taking anything, right?
It's not robbing. Instead of suing them, we're gonna take a bit of shit. I want to copy the fucking videotapes in here too. This is bullshit.
Season 3's overarching storyline is that the Trailer Park Boys can't change their ways and therefore don't even try. In contrast to Season 1, where Julian does initially try to better himself only to completely fall flat, and unlike Season 2 where they just immediately start stealing car stereos, we get another look at how these guys will never be rehabilitated. To kind of close off what happened in Season 2, Ricky and Julian get the money from their drug deal, and Ricky is so quick to blow his money because he thinks it's unlimited.
That's for the pen. And you know what? I got out of jail and I tried to start things off on the right foot. And you wouldn't do that, would you? So I'm gonna pay you $100 to fuck off.
Whereas Julian wants to try and invest the money into some semi-legitimate businesses to kind of grow his wealth. They never really state how much money that they got, but it's got to be in the ballpark of maybe like 10 to 15 grand. And yeah, that's not a lot of money, but I can kind of empathize with Ricky here because I'm somebody who grew up with like not a lot of money, and like if you get money all of a sudden, you're like, fuck, I gotta get all this shit that I could never afford, and then it's gone faster than you'd think. In standard Trailer Park Boys fashion, Ricky and Julian have a bit of a disagreement, then they end up going their separate ways for a bit. During Ricky's spending spree, he does this thing where he throws this huge party in the park where he's gonna burn his car, and this is a line that I used to quote very frequently in high school before a house party or any event that was going to involve drinking.
And I plan on getting drunk as fuck tonight. Drunk as fuck. Drunk as fuck. Drunk as fuck. Drunk as fuck.
Season 3 of Trailer Park Boys also marks the first time that Ricky's car kind of becomes a character, you know, the busted up 1975 Chrysler New Yorker that he lives in. It gets its name, the Shitmobile.
If I even see that shitmobile on the road again.
And in most promotional materials, it's referred to as such, like, for the rest of the show's run. You start to really learn, like, the inner workings of the car, how, like, even the fucking gears are fucked up, and how it stalls and everything. Like, the Shitmobile becomes a character, and I must say, that is a little impressive when an inanimate object becomes a character in a show.
And I'm gonna burn this car right to the ground. I'm starting a new life.
Well, Ricky's been living in the Shitmobile for I don't know how many years now. Julian gave it to him when he had no place to go, and Ricky goes on about it, you know, how much he hates the fucking thing, but he's lived in it so long, I think he'd really miss it if he didn't have it.
Come on, yeah, you know what's coming, don't you? You know what's gonna happen to you tonight.
You know, he's always kicking it and being mean to it, but he loves that old Yorker.
They still kind of play that white trash thing with these characters. Like, Lucy goes after Ricky for child support as soon as she finds out he has money, despite this never coming up before. And Ricky, spending and spending and spending, kind of overspends because he's an idiot. This usually would be fine, except for the fact that Ricky made a agreement to kiss Lahey's bare ass if he didn't have the money for a new trailer that he ordered. And of course, he doesn't have the money, so he ends up kissing Lahey's ass because he chooses to get a set of encyclopedias for Trinity so she doesn't turn out stupid like he does. This is one of the more kind of cringy moments, I think. Like, it does kind of show how dumb Ricky is. I get what they're going for here. I guess this shows that, well, Ricky's kind of dumb and doesn't quite understand it. He has good intentions, but it just seems kind of dumb, and I get it. Like, Ricky is dumb, but I don't know. Like, wouldn't the thing to do if you didn't want your kid to be stupid would be to, like, invest in their education or something, like college? I don't know. On the plus side, they dropped the fucking child support angle pretty quick. Now, here's the problem that I have with the first few episodes of Season 3. Like, yes, they're funny, but it's very lazy because they seem only to serve the purpose of bringing Ricky and Julian back to the bottom so that they can have a plot for this season. I ain't saying they're not funny. Like, Temporary Relief Assistant Trailer Park Supervisor is one of the top episodes in the series. Basically, it's like a kind of reverse roles thing where Ricky ends up qualifying to replace Randy while Randy is suspended for mouthing off to Barb.
This place is going to shit again. You haven't started the recycling program. The park is a complete mess.
Frig off, Burb.
Frig off!
But it's just like where it goes overall. First episode, let's get Ricky to blow up his money. Second episode, let's have Julian get screwed out of his money. It just kind of feels like, I don't know, they could have played with the money angle a little bit better. That's all I'm saying. Like, Temporary Relief Assistant Trailer Park Supervisor is, like, a solid episode. It's a common dynamic in a comedy show. It kind of reminds me of Homer the Smithers or whatever. The whole, let's put the main character in a situation where he and somebody he's antagonistic towards have to work together. It's common. But nevertheless, like, the season does take a little bit of time to actually get going somewhere. After Ricky fucks up Julian's vodka scheme during a fight with Randy, they decide that they need to just come up with a whole new dynamic to make money, and that dynamic is they commit minor crime.
If you went to Ray's fridge and took his pepperoni, he'd be fucking losing it, right? And he'd come after you. Ricky, where's my pepperoni? But if you just go in there and take a couple bites out of it every now and then, you still get to eat pepperoni. But Ray's not coming after you.
Again, kind of toning it down from like the drug operation in the second season, and if you know how the future seasons go, this is definitely toned down. It feels like they were trying to capture a wide audience with this, which is fine. It's not like they lose out on comedic moments from this, but it kinda, I don't know, it feels out of place. And there's like a slight flaw here, and again, I realize this is a comedy show, but like, Ricky and Julian have a lot of priors. I think even if they got caught doing theft under 1,000, they'd probably be looking at some jail time. So when it comes to the character arcs, like, Ricky's whole character arc isn't really him trying to win Lucy back this season, but it is him trying to strengthen his fatherly bond with his daughter Trinity. Bubbles doesn't have much in the way of an arc this season, but he's involved with Ricky and Julian to the point where he's, like, evolved from being a minor character. He is a full-on, like, third-string main character now. And Julian's story arc, while it does take a little bit of time to get going, has him ending up in a relationship with a cop. Besides the main cast of characters, 3 other characters get some extensive development during Season 3. Lahey and Randy get further developed. Not only do we have an episode where it becomes openly known that they are in fact a gay couple, but we get to learn more about the circumstances of Lahey's firing from the police force. Season 3 is really the first season where Jim Lahey being a drunk becomes like part of his character. Yes, they did that episode in Season 2 where he's on a bender because his life is going to shit, but it's from this point onwards that Lahey's alcoholism and drunkenness becomes a staple of who Jim Lahey is. And this whole running gag would kind of evolve into one of the funnier aspects of the later seasons because John Dunsworth is really good at playing a drunk. Furthermore, the shit analogies become kind of Lahey's trademark. He made a few in Seasons 1 and 2, but like he makes one pretty much in every episode of Season 3, and moving forward, this would be a regular trait of his character.
I'm watching you, Julian, like a shithawk. Like a shithawk. When a shit apple falls from a tree and grows up in a field of shit, it doesn't have any choice, just like Trinity.
You idiots have loaded up a hair-trigger, double-barreled shit machine gun, and the barrel's pointed straight at your own heads.
So, like the barrel of the gun's bent backwards?
Let's go, Randy.
And furthermore, they've come kind of full swing into like full-on villain territory. Every time Ricky and Julian or even Bubbles have something going on in an episode, more likely than not, Lahey and Randy are trying to get in the way of that. Again, along with the minor crimes storyline, it does seem like they were kind of just streamlining this show to be something very palatable for like the wide audiences. Not only is there no drug storyline in Season 3, as I mentioned before, but it's one of 3 seasons out of the original 7 that don't have a drug storyline, and it's the only season where the drug references are kept to the bare minimum. Off the top of my head, the only drug scene they really have in Season 3 is when Ricky and Julian buy weed off some cops to bring to the Rush concert. A few references to getting higher there, but like, no, the drugs kind of take a backseat to everything else. So with Ricky and Julian not trying to sell weed or grow weed, what are they doing to make money? Well, the minor crime scheme includes schemes such as stealing barbecues, stealing gas, running an illegal gas station in the park, and just a slew of crimes that are theft under 1,000. I don't know what the term for theft under 1,000 is in the States, but essentially theft under 1,000 and theft over 1,000 are the difference between a felony or a misdemeanor, which in Canada we refer to as a summary charge or an indictable charge. Despite Season 3 being kind of a toned-down version of the show, it still has some of the funniest moments in the show's history. And it does present a lot of moments that when you talk to somebody who hasn't watched this show in a while but remembers watching it back in the day, like, this is what they remember. For example, the episode If I Can't Smoke and Swear I'm Fucked is a contender for a top 10 episode in the entire series. It's such a dumb scheme, but it has so many memorable moments in it. This episode is where I learned about the dangers of smoking with the patch on. Yeah, like Ricky and Trinity are trying to quit smoking cigarettes together and they both go on the patch, which is a callback to a joke from the original movie, but Ricky has no plans of actually holding up his end of the bargain at all. Again, this seems outrageous, and if you watched my first video on this, I think I went through the same rant that like a child that young would be smoking, but honestly, back in the day, this is something that was more common than you may think. Much of the older people that I knew who smoked, like, started smoking relatively young. They weren't like 5 or 6 or anything, but like, pretty fucking close. Like, one of my friends, like, his dad started smoking cigarettes when he was like 11. Those people who do smoke, or I guess now vape, usually start in high school. When I used to smoke. Like, I had my first cigarette when I was 15, I think, and that was considered, like, old. Like, I knew kids who were like, oh, I smoked a cigarette when I was 12. So while the joke is a little bit exaggerated, it's not 100% implausible that Trinity would be smoking, given the fact that she has Ricky and Lucy as parents. This episode displays how Ricky and Julian are so dumb that even when they actively try to stay out of jail, they just can't like avoid any legal problems because they have no idea how to survive without breaking the law. Like when Ricky robs a corner store by accident. And the episode kind of solidifies Corey and Trevor's role as the patsies or the fucking whatever you want to call them, the lackeys of the group. Like they're kind of teetering on that throughout seasons 1 and 2, but this is the season where that kind of starts, and that's going to have some negative effects on the show moving forward. In this episode, they're basically told to siphon a bunch of gas and they start to get really sick. The funny thing is, I used to work at a recycling plant a few years ago, and like the forklifts and the skid steers all ran on diesel, so like I was gassing up my machine, and some of the diesel spat out at me and got in my mouth, and honestly, like Ricky wasn't talking shit. Diesel did actually taste kind of good.
Yeah, but how can you tell which is the Supreme?
What are you, stupid? You fucking taste it. Unleaded tastes a little tangy. Supreme is kind of sour, and Diesel tastes pretty good.
All in all, this is like one of those episodes where like something funny is happening pretty much in any scene. Like this is like a top episode. Like when Randy and Lahey suspect Ricky and Julian of running a prostitution ring using Sarah and Lucy. Now Sarah and Lucy are cutting hair in this season out of their trailer, and essentially Julian devises this system to launder the money, which makes Randy and Lahey suspicious.
I'll bet you this coupon doesn't get your perm.
It says perm right on it there, Mr. Lahey.
Randy, there's a distinct possibility that Ricky and Julian are operating a prostitution ring.
So they go into Sarah and Lucy's with hidden cameras thinking they're going to get like a blowjob or whatever, but no, the coupon for a perm actually means they're just getting a perm. And the way they cut from them like going in and doing this whole operation to them just sitting there like working on the next part of their plan while their hair is all fucked up, like I don't know, like it just makes me laugh so hard. It's just perfectly like edited and timed. After Ricky blows up the illegal gas station after he collapses from smoking with the patch on, it kind of devolves into a whole courtroom scene, where Ricky is able to successfully convince the judge that he's unable to defend himself properly if he's not allowed to smoke and swear while in court.
Look, I can't speak without swearing, and I've only got my grade 10, and I haven't had a cigarette since I've been arrested, and I'm ready to fucking snap. So I'd like to make a request under the People's Freedom of Choices and Voices Act that I be able to smoke and swear in your courtroom. Because if I can't smoke and swear, I'm fucked. And so are all these guys. I won't be able to properly express myself at a court level, and that's bullshit. It's not fair, and if you ask me, I think it's a fucking mistrial.
In the end, they pin everything on Corey and Trevor and get out of trouble. I do like how Ricky still has his, like, powers of suggestion or whatever, where he can just kind of twist anything to get himself out of trouble with authority. Like, Lahey thought the hidden camera footage was concrete, but, like, out of context, Ricky is able to just kind of twist it and turn it to kind of just, like, deflect it, and the judge buys it.
What's wrong with you guys, anyway? Oh, man, we're sick from all the fucking gas we've been stealing. We should be better in 6 to 8 days, though.
Why, Corey and Trevor, that's highly illegal. You shouldn't be stealing gas, Corey and Trevor.
Now, I feel I should mention that part of the reason why I fucking swear so much is likely because I watched a lot of Trailer Park Boys during my formative years, and it does get to a point where I legitimately cannot speak without swearing. Now, in terms of spotlight episodes that don't focus on Ricky, Julian, or Bubbles, there are a handful, one of which covers J-Roc, the microphone assassin, where they kind of move J-Roc's characterization from being like a petty criminal to being an aspiring rapper. It surrounds the park when J-Roc's first album is dropping, with J-Roc being the first artist from the trailer park to actually release an album besides that whack-ass shit that Corey and Trevor released on cassette.
That's the first CD out the Sunnyvale trailer park, you know what I'm saying? Except for that whack bullshit that Corey and Trevor released on cassette, but they was frontin', you know what I'm saying?
And this is where like the end goal of the third season kind of comes to light, with the idea being that after they get enough money from doing all their small crimes, the whole group is just gonna go on a cruise. Now the main problem is that like while J-Roc can rap, his album does feature a lot of other artists on it, so it's essentially he's bootlegging music.
Really, all he did was take a bunch of famous rap songs and mixed on some of his 4-track stuff there, and now he put this out, J-Roc and Friends. It's a bit fucked if you ask me, because half these rappers, I'm sure, don't know they're on here.
There's a lot of moments in the episode that contribute to why this is one of my favorite episodes of this season, but giving the focus to J-Roc for an episode and spotlighting him definitely adds to that as well. Jonathan Torrens is one of the funnier actors on the show. The way he talks and his mannerisms as J-Roc are like fucking goated. They kind of run it into the ground later, but for the first few seasons, he's legitimately funny. The episode actually seems to go forth to develop why J-Roc acts the way he acts, why he seems to act, you know, black. Now this does play on kind of a Canadian thing, and I'm pretty sure this happens in the States too, one that's not so common anymore, but still kind of shows up from time to time. So I know like in Toronto we had similar situations to this, but like Canada in general has several cities in which there is a sizable black population. In Toronto, you know, you got a lot of Jamaicans. In Halifax, you have a lot of Afro-Canadians, as they call them. But since Canada never really had any segregation with white and black people, there are instances in which a white kid who ends up growing up in a black neighborhood and mostly socializes around black people starts acting black. J-Roc likely hung around Tyrone and all of his other friends as a kid and simply just identified with and adopted their mannerisms to a point where while he's white on the outside, on the inside he's black. Of course, this whole theory gets retconned and kind of ruined later, but that's kind of the vibe I'm getting from J-Roc as a character. He's not like acting hood to, you know, be hood. He's not Drake, he's actually hood. The episode dives into any insecurities J-Roc has surrounding his identity, as well as yet another quick scheme for the boys to get money by selling his albums and holding a concert in Sunnyvale. But things start to not go so right for J-Roc after he gets caught whacking it.
Turn that shit off, motherfucker! I was getting changed, you know what I'm saying? I don't want that shit on TV!
This is the first time I'd ever seen anything where they actually showed somebody, like, masturbating on screen. Like, I was maybe, what, this is 2003, so I would have been, like, 11, 12 when this came out. And it took me by surprise. I remember my dad was just like, oh my god, like, out loud, because we just simply weren't expecting this. This was not common on TV back in the day. Lahey once again plays the antagonist as he orders Ricky and Julian to not have the concert, and when they decide to have the concert, basically loopholing what he said, because he said if they own the property they could do it, and I guess J-Roc's mom owns the property. And out of spite he decides to call one of the artists on J-Roc's CD Detroit Velvet Smooth.
You're from Detroit?
Nah, man, I'm from Moncton, but never mind that. Where the fuck are these CDs at?
There's this whole thing where DVS confronts J-Roc and kind of punks him in front of everybody, and J-Roc goes through an identity crisis where he kind of turns white again.
What's wrong? Why are you dressed like that?
Why would I be dressed any differently, Mom? It's who I am. It's hard to admit it, but... Mom, I'm white.
Obviously they reverse all of this, and you know, by the end of it, J-Roc and DVS talk, and DVS compliments him on his music, and J-Roc decides to be J-Roc again, but it's a nice little introspection into one of the side characters.
Well, before you were born, I was, involved with a couple of black guys. Oh, yeah.
No way.
I like black guys, Jamie. I mean, there's no question about it.
And it's also worth noting that this episode was made after 8 Mile came out, and I'm sure it kind of had an effect on this. I mean, if anything, this episode's kind of an 8 Mile parody. J-Roc himself is based on perceptions some people may have had on Eminem. Trailer Park Boys Season 3 marks the show's first crossover into the mainstream, as during the episode Closer to the Heart, we see Bubbles desiring to go to a Rush concert, and Rush guitarist Alex Lifeson actually does a guest appearance in the show. And this is kind of how you know the show is starting to get up there, when like a major band in Canadian culture is actually like appearing on a TV show. And I really think that this is the episode that solidified the moment in which Ricky completely usurped Julian as like the primary main character. In Season 1, all Ricky was a secondary comic relief character. In Season 2, he was sharing the spotlight with Julian, but the plot itself was still centered around Julian's scheme. By Season 3, Ricky has become the clear-cut lead character. And again, this is the episode where it's like, if they're gonna put Ricky with Alex Lifeson, like, yeah, no, he's the top guy.
Hotel security, this man's drunk as fuck, he's on
what
drugs.
What is going on here?
He's a male prostitute. I'm gonna escort him out of here.
Male prostitute?
I may have called him a male prostitute, I don't remember exactly, and But I mean, very well, he could be a male prostitute. You don't know that.
Now, they're kind of just doing a few episodes to kind of start the season up, and then mid-season it kind of shifts to the overall plot line of them going for the cruise. Episode 6 is the barbecue scheme episode, and it has a lot of really funny moments, but it's noteworthy for two things. For one, it introduces the character of Erica, a cop who starts following Ricky and gets kind of tricked by Julian into letting them go, who becomes the love interest for the rest of the season, and fans of the Saw franchise might recognize her as Tara Abbott from Saw 6 and Saw 3D. The episode itself is also noteworthy for introducing the dynamic of Lahey and Randy as a gay couple. Now, I mean, maybe not exactly, because we kind of saw that whole thing in season 1 and they hint at it throughout the rest of the series, but this is where it becomes like public, where they come out of the closet.
What in the fuck are you dressed up like a bumblebee for? And why do you look like Indianapolis Jones?
And it was praised by gay rights groups for positively depicting this moment. Even though, like, they had Randy and Lahey dressed up as Indiana Jones and a bee in some weird sex act.
Hey, everybody. We're gay.
What?
Say it, Mr. Lahey. It feels great.
All right, Randy. Do it your way. Everybody? I'm gay.
I kind of like Lahey's reaction, where, like, he goes along with it and then he just immediately regrets it.
It was just an accident. Nobody got hurt.
Julian? Everybody knows I'm gay.
There's a lot of good character moments in here, like when Julian's put in a situation where he has to lie to the cops, and like usually Ricky's the one that does it, and he's just fucking terrible at it. It's also noteworthy that the Erica character is the final time in which Julian gets a romantic subplot during the TV series. And almost immediately after it, it's kind of a loose two-parter, because the episode that follows, The Delusions of Officer Jim Lahey, kind of dives into how Lahey's career as a police officer was cut short and how he resents that. It's a little far-fetched. Lahey gets really drunk, starts pretending like he's a cop, and acting like Sunnyvale has become its own jurisdiction, but again, it's loaded with pretty funny moments. My personal favorite is Bubbles trying to act as a diversion by pretending to be Ricky and Julian.
This is Julian. I've got everything under control. Yeah, fuck off, Lahey. This is Ricky. I got my hand caught in the sink and I'm fucking stoned, and don't shoot the door, you dick.
Bubbles, is that you?
God. No, this is Julian. Bubbles collecting cards.
But I will say this, like, the J-Roc episode is great. Where the Fuck is Randy's Barbecue is great. If I Can't Smoke and Swear, it's all great. This is a great season despite its shortcomings compared to what came before and what came after. But I would go ahead and say that the finale might actually be one of the best finales that Trailer Park Boys has ever done. It caps off Ricky's whole arc with trying to be a better father to Trinity. Essentially, to make up for all the Christmases that Ricky missed because he was in jail, he decides to have a Christmas dinner with his daughter, but then Ricky gets ejected from the park. It doesn't help that earlier in the episode, Julian also didn't get Ricky's cruise ticket because he got one for Erica instead, thinking that he'd be able to go up on a promotion they had that expired. All of these events happening causes Ricky to have a legendary crash out where he decides, fuck it, he wants to go back to jail.
Ricky kind of freaked out and threw a turkey, which might have gone through a windshield of one of the cop cars, they're saying, but it's like anyone would have done that.
What makes this so funny is that no matter what Ricky does, he cannot get himself arrested, which is a subversion of your typical Trailer Park Boys finale where you would expect Ricky to end up back in jail. One of the most quotable lines in the season is when he goes right up to police headquarters and starts causing a scene, only to find out that
Closed for renovations? This is fucked!
It's just pure chaos, and then you have this whole side plot with Corey and Trevor trying to steal an ATM or rob a laundromat.
Hey everybody, how you doing? This is my friend Mr. Gunn. My special guest Smith & Wesson says get your ass down and give me some quarters. This is a stick-up, real deal, real gun, full cooperation, and no one gets done. You have to listen to because that's what I say when I rock with...
Stop fucking rapping, man. This is the real thing.
Just to get the last bit of money to get that ticket, and it actually has a pretty solid conclusion. We get to see some genuine growth for Ricky as he realizes that his bad behavior is a really bad influence on his daughter, and he actually starts to kind of regret his actions, and the gravity of the situation comes down on him.
What I started realizing about Trinity is that now she's at this age where it's gorilla see, gorilla do, and what I'm doing, she starts to do. If I throw a bottle in a lake, she's gonna throw a bottle in a lake, which is no big deal. You are never going to jail, so we gotta do the right thing right now and take this rim back where you got it from. You shouldn't be stealing. She doesn't need to steal. I can steal everything we need, and why does she need to take it?
The thing is, like, Ricky's not a bad guy. He's an idiot, he does a lot of illegal shit. At his core as a person, he's not bad. Like, yes, Ricky is a recidivist, he's a criminal, he constantly does illegal shit, but he does have some semblance of a moral compass. He does understand the difference between right and wrong. It's just that his perception of right and wrong is a little bit different from what a normal person's would be. They don't really dive too much into Ricky's psychology because the show, while it does get funnier from here, definitely gets stupider from here. But throughout the series, we do get little hints that most of the reason why Ricky is the way he is has to do with how he was raised. I think Ricky does on some level understand that his upbringing is why he is the way he is, and like he does understand that what he does is wrong, but he just simply doesn't know how to not be that way. But he has enough sense about himself to make sure that his daughter doesn't end up like that.
Oh, Rick.
I want to go to jail.
Trinity, don't ever say that again, okay? Don't joke about that.
I want to go to jail.
Trinity,
Jail.
stop it.
Jail.
I'm serious. Don't ever joke about that. You're never going to jail.
Again, they never really go deep into how Ricky's, like, psychology works as a character, because again, this is a comedy show, and it's a comedy show that gets dumber per season. But there are a few hints to, like, why Ricky is the way he is. First and foremost is because Ray was drunk all the time, and secondly, the very few mentions they make of Ricky's mother, Tammy, imply that she was either a really hardcore drug addict or a hardcore alcoholic who definitely partook in those habits while pregnant with Ricky. I knew a few kids like that, and they were all just like, they weren't, I wouldn't say they were like Ricky, because Ricky is like funny, but like I remember growing up and I knew some like kind of lower class kids who like had some serious fucking issues behaviorally, and their moms were either crackheads or drank while pregnant. But I think having Ricky actually stop and think when he realizes that his daughter is like trying to imitate his behavior does show that on some level he knows that the way he acts isn't right. He just doesn't know how else to get through in life, but he doesn't want that for his kids. So yes, on some level, Ricky does have a functioning moral compass. And this kind of snaps him out of his crash out where he like realizes, he's like, fuck boys, I'm going back to jail. Like he does realize that it's wrong, and that kind of keeps Ricky from teetering over the edge to like unlikable. However, the universe decides to kind of throw Ricky a bone here. When the ATM blows, Lahey and Randy get hit with the ink, Erica comes in and stops everything, and Julian, Randy, and Lahey get arrested, but Ricky not only ends up avoiding jail, in the stinger we see that Ricky, due to his experience as a temporary relief trailer park supervisor, he ends up getting the job as trailer park supervisor when Lahey goes to jail. And to cap it off, everybody else goes on the cruise. So the first time in the series history, the season kind of ends on a high note rather than a break-even note. Sure, Julian gets screwed, but Randy and Lahey lose, and Ricky ends up for once in a genuinely better place by the end of the season, both as a person and in life. Season 3 is weird. Like, personally, I do like it, but I think it just kind of has the problem that it doesn't compare well to the other season. I have a soft spot for season 1, and I appreciate that they tried to do something different with season 2. While I do admit that toning season 3 down was the right choice considering they were getting a bunch of new viewers in due to word of mouth, it still felt like they were figuring shit out, like how they wanted to do this. Sadly, season 3 is the first season where it feels like they kind of just shed off the whole realism aspect. Season 1 could be passed off as a documentary. Season 2, while a little bit more formulaic, still kind of felt like it had that like realm going for it. Season 3, it just feels like it feels like a comedy show, and that's fine, it's still entertaining, but it just feels like at times it's a little less chaotic, which is why the show was so great in the first place. It also doesn't help that season 4 is considered to be the best season of the show, and that came right after it. Like, I find myself going back to season 3 less than I would to like 1, 2, 4, or 5. And it's all personal preference. Like I said, I don't think it's a bad season. I do think it does have genuinely some of the funniest moments in the show's history. It just, like I said earlier, feels really safe, and Trailer Park Boys was never really a safe show. I will admit that season 3 is ultimately where they did kind of find what they were looking for. They got rid of all the grit from the first movie in the first season, they finally solidified their cast and weren't experimenting as much like they did with the second season, and while season 3 did say goodbye to conventions from the past 2 seasons, it kind of set itself on a course to become one of the biggest shows in Canadian history with its 4th season. It felt like the right growth for the show, but it wasn't quite there yet. Nevertheless, season season 3 is pretty much where like the most of the audience probably dropped into it for the first time. It was the first moment in which the show crossed over from cult classic into the mainstream. And as I mentioned earlier, the show was all over everything. You couldn't go anywhere without hearing anybody fucking talking about it. They actually appeared at a Rush concert in Toronto to shoot the scenes with Bubbles on stage with the band. And this comes after they appeared in a Tragically Hip music video. So it's pretty impressive that this little short film kind of turned into a series that ended up becoming one of the most popular shows in Canada. Like, it's comparable in popularity to hits such as SCTV, Kids in the Hall, and Red Green. Now, this might sound like conjecture, but season 3 is really where I personally started to notice the show was getting popular. Like, I'd been aware of it for a couple years because my dad watched it, but like, even kids that I went to school with, and keep in mind, I was in the 6th fucking grade, were talking about this, and like, if this wasn't like a monumental Canadian TV show, like, kids my age wouldn't have been watching it. But no, because of its importance to Canadian film and television, like, I knew a lot of kids that were allowed to watch this show, despite the fact that it is an R-rated show. And it's rare because at this point in time, like, Canadian TV was changing. Like, we used to really put an emphasis on stuff produced here. At the turn of the millennium, like, we started to embrace more American programming. We started to bring over more shows from America because it's cheaper to just license American shows than it is to produce our own. It's also the perfect little storm because while I did watch and laugh at the first 2 seasons when I was younger, like, I still was kind of a kid, and I was hitting puberty around this time. I was starting to get into the more adult-oriented shows, like the stuff that was on Adult Swim and whatnot. So it kind of hit just right, you know, getting into season 3 right when I was getting into more mature humor and starting to understand humor better. Now, the show is well known in the States and in Europe now, but back in the day, it was still kind of just a Canadian thing. Like, the only person I knew from the States who actually had watched this show was my uncle, who is like in love with Canadian culture. He had gotten like bootleg DVDs or whatever and watched the whole thing. But it's worth noting that they actually did try to air this show in the United States on BBC America, heavily censored and in a graveyard slot. But despite this, eventually Trailer Park Boys did start to become more and more popular across borders, and you can thank file sharing sites for this. Eventually, Trailer Park Boys would get a proper television run in the United States. However, the crossover point from cult classic to mainstream was kind of an omen. The show now had to keep escalating and outdoing its previous season, which would ultimately lead to a peak, and that peak is going to be the subject of my next few videos, but when something hits its peak, it only has a few more steps: plateauing and declining. That's a bridge we're going to have to cross to when we get there. All in all, though, the importance of Trailer Park Boys Season 3 cannot be understated. It is when the show became the show that it would become. That doesn't make sense, but no, it's when the show became a fucking hit. And at this point, it's all uphill from here until it goes downhill again. Honestly, like, even if I have criticisms of each season of this show, like, the first 7 seasons of Trailer Park Boys do have a special place in my heart, and season 3 is no exception. Now, I know I did the first video where I did seasons 1 and 2, and I'm kind of doing season 3 here on its own. Like, I'm sorry if you did expect me to do season 4 with it, but there are 2 reasons why I'm going to be doing the next few seasons kind of on their own. For one, both seasons 4 and 5 are considered the peak of the series, so they get their own review. And it's very likely that I'm going to end up just doing seasons 6 and 7 on their own as well, because I have some choice opinions on those. But nevertheless, we'll get to that when we get to that. What are your thoughts on the 3rd season of Trailer Park Boys? Let me know in the comments, and if you like this video, like it, subscribe it, share it with your friends, and I'll see you next time.
You know what this is?
Walkie-talkie? Jim, what are you... Jesus, what the fuck was that fucking thing?
It's a stun gun, Ricky. Jim, didn't I tell you to turn that off? Ow! Ow! Come here.
But now you heard the story about how I got caught playing with my shit, but hold that thought before you disrespect J-Roc. It could happen to you, cause it happened to me. T. Check this shit out.
Come on.
Check it out.
J-Roc.
The situation broke out when I smoked too much bud. Reached in my drawers, pulled out my pud, bust open a jar of petroleum jelly. Started thinking about Donna and Nikki and Shelly. Her mind, I was hitting it, we was almost there. Then the door bust open and fuck, my mom's was there. What? Don't disrespect J-Roc, it could happen to you, cause it happened to me. Like a what? Know what I'm saying? Know what I'm saying? Come on. Like a waka